Expensive Christmas as globally the cost of food is increasing. In part one of this Primetime News special report, Cordianne Barrett looks at what consumers are likely to face heading into the new year.
The cost of goods and services are too high, the cries from many Jamaicans when they go out to purchase their necessities. And the reality is, for many, they fear that the price they see on the items today will be higher tomorrow.
Don't bring 3,005 last week and bring it this week to pick up the same thing you purchased last week. It's not going to work. It's not happening. You're not going to get half of what you buy last week, this week.
Certain things that I love, I cannot buy it no more because it's too high. Even water, they have taxes on water. Every food you buy, there's tax. The
triple time I am, man. You can't talk. We can't talk. It's so high, that's when you go in there and buy a pack of something. You have to put it down back.
This could spell a crisis in Jamaica, especially among the poor, something Prime Minister Andrew Holness addressed during the JLP's annual conference on Sunday.
In our recent supplementary budget, the Minister of Finance announced another initiative to support poor households with food to cushion the impact of inflation on the basket of poor households.
Inflation from October last year to this year was 8.5%, above the country's target of 4 to 6%. The price of food and non-alcoholic beverages increased by 11.8%. According to economist Ralston Hyman, most of our inflation is imported. Due to the pandemic, the economies that make up the global supply chain are still not producing at full capacity, resulting in some cargo ships disappearing.
Many ships are unable to get into the port of Los Angeles and the various ports. So they are outside waiting to get into the port with the goods and with the container. So the production of goods itself is short, and that which is produced, they are unable to get into the ports to clear those goods. When they do get into the ports, there's a problem with truck drivers. So all of those things impact on the prices of the goods and services. It's demand and supply.
This has created a ripple effect for manufacturers.
So the shipping costs have gone up tremendously, and a lot of the goods for raw material, for packaging, for manufacturing input are actually sourced out of Asia. And so you're talking about a tremendous increase in getting them here. I mean, in the case of Seprod, when I look year to date, the impact of the shipping cost increase was over 2.5 million US.
And if products are missing, distributors are under pressure. In order to manage cost, most retailers simply pass it on to consumers. So what can consumers do? Join us tomorrow for part 2 when we hear from experts on navigating the food crisis. Cordianne Barrett, TVJ News.
And continuing with the package, there are renewed calls this evening for Jamaica to take steps to remove the Queen as head of state. The age-old debate has resurfaced following last night's official ceremony to mark the Republic's status of Barbados. Vashon Brown has more.
At midnight, the official announcement.
From this day and forever, declare Barbados a parliamentary republic.
Barbados now joins other countries in the region, like Guyana, which became a republic in 1970, less than 4 years after gaining independence from Britain. Trinidad and Tobago followed suit in 1976 and Dominica in 1978. Discussions about severing ties with the British monarchy have been taking place in Jamaica for years. Dr. Maziki Tame is a senior lecturer in the Institute of Gender and Development Studies at the University of the West Indies Mona campus.
Some years ago, I remember, I think some royal was visiting Jamaica and someone had spray painted on the walls, the gate to Mona, Mona, Nani Afewe Queen. And I think that expressed so much of the contradiction of saying that you're independent and the Queen that represents a history of colonialism, a history in which people of African descent were working to profit Europe with no compensation for themselves. At independence, you choose to maintain this connection, which, though now it's largely symbolic, still has significance in terms of that process of decolonization, which we have learned is not an immediate process.
For Literary and Cultural Studies lecturer in the Institute of Caribbean Studies at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Dr. Lisa Tomlinson, it is time for Jamaica to make the move.
It's quite silly, ridiculous that we would still have the Queen as head of state, excuse me. It leaves behind our colonial past. And our colonial past, of course, we know through colonialism and the legacy of slavery, and also that connection that we've had to England. So it takes away, and it's a step towards that.
Part of the challenge, Dr. Tame argues, is that Jamaicans are not preoccupied with whether the head of state is the Queen or somebody else.
It's a kind of foregone conclusion that doesn't mean anything in our everyday lives. And so governments don't necessarily feel invested in making those kinds of changes.
Dame Sandra Mason was inaugurated as the first president of Barbados. Her role will be largely ceremonial.
If you're going to take on, if we're saying that we're going to cut ties with the British, the ceremonial president is just a replacement of the Governor General.
Changing the Governor General to a symbolic presidency doesn't necessarily do anything to enhance democracy. And so in a way, we need to go further than Mia has gone.
In April 2016, as he delivered the throne speech outlining the government's legislative agenda for 2016-2017, Governor General Sir Patrick Allen said the Andrew Holness administration would move to replace the Queen as head of state. It's something the People's National Party administration also promised to do in 2011. In 2020, opposition MP Michael Phillips tabled a resolution for the removal of the Queen as head of state and for Jamaica to become a republic. Mr. Phillips called for the process to be completed before Jamaica celebrates its 60th anniversary as an independent nation. Vashon Brown, TVJ News.
A prisoner who was awaiting extradition to St. Lucia is now on the run after escaping from the Kingston Central Police lockup this morning. It's understood that 27-year-old Orville Purnell escaped custody about 5 o'clock. He is described as a high-risk prisoner. According to reports, police personnel were conducting checks of the cells when it was discovered that Mr. Purnell, who was in isolation from other detainees, had escaped. The resident of Belgium Road in Buff Bay, Portland, was arrested in July. He was scheduled to appear in court on December 6 for an extradition hearing. Mr. Purnell escaped the custody of the St. Lucian police on October 2020, days after he was charged for the murder of a man in Grosley on August 25. 1 year after an 82-year-old woman and her 2 grandchildren were shot and killed in Trial Heights, St. Catherine, the family is still seeking justice. They held a memorial service over the weekend to commemorate the tragic loss. Kalisha Williams has his primetime news follow-up.
But for the McFarlane family in Trial Heights, St. Catherine, those days can't come fast enough. It's been 1 year since 82-year-old Iselin McFarlane and her 2 granddaughters, 6-year-old Michelle McFarlane and 10-year-old Christina McFarlane, were gunned down in this house. And the family members they left behind are still struggling to move forward. Christopher McFarlane is Iselin McFarlane's son, and the 2 girls were his children.
I just have to take it one day at a time. I can't. At night time, every night, I jump up same way. Can't sleep.
So on Saturday night, the family held a vigil to pay respect to the victims.
For the past year, I'm really thinking about them, really and truly, because for what really happened and how it go down, then can't come out of my mind.
So while the vigil brought the community together, it was a painful reminder of an incident that the family will not forget anytime soon.
Still I wonder why me from my youth until now. Pretty much from my youth until now, I got through it. And now I grow, I 2 youth them. If you see a man come 2 man or 3 man or whatever much man come and kill me 2 youth them, kill my mother. God no.
And to make matters worse, family members told us they still need closure as justice has not been served.
The police that come by one day last week, and she said that they are still not able to put their hand on anything.
When TVJ News contacted the police, we were told that so far one person of interest has been identified. However, no arrests have been made. In the meantime, Councillor for the Lauriston Division, which includes Trial Heights, Keisha Lewis, said she has been trying to renew hope in the community marred by the tragedy.
I'm with them. I've always been with them, and I'm not going to leave them because I understand what they endured and what they're enduring to this date.
Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. We go back to an earlier story where several students are leaving the schoolyard for the boatyard in Rocky Point, Clarendon. Our reporter Dwayne Anderson journeyed to find out why.
A group of boys from Rocky Point in Clarendon happily make their way to a fowl fighting ring with their prized roosters in hand. But there are two issues here. One, fowl fighting is illegal. And two, they are all school-aged and should be in school, whether online or otherwise. As we scoured the community during what would be considered regular class hours, we saw more student-aged children idly walking about. We were told the situation is a reflection of some of the social issues in the community, and some residents are worried.
Most of them don't have any device to go online. So they walk around the room, right? So those are the missing kids.
Parents need a little more education because they don't value education as much as they ought to.
Many of these youth, most of them boys, have long abandoned the formal education system in search of lessons in what is known as the school of life. And most of those lessons they get are found here on the Caribbean Sea and along the coastline of Rocky Point.
So the youth, them now, no for them not really want to go to school and thing and through the beach down here, so them try to come hustle.
Miss Gunners is a teacher based in the community. She operated a basic school in the area that closed when the pandemic hit. She is concerned about the situation facing students.
Pain my heart because some children down there, they are so bright and intelligent, they just want the help to go forward. Once they get on the beach, remember, you can't get them.
And we soon learned why. Working for boat crews on the coast can be lucrative. The boys can make up to $20,000 each for one job, depending on how hard the task is. We caught up with two of the boys who earn from the fishing beach at Rocky Point. Roddy and Tommy, as they said we should call them, are both under 18.
More the parents there now because only a mother me have, my father die, I see, Boy, if tell you true, me and my daddy kind of mess up, because he used to mind me, but me and him mess up. He now go on good again, so I just take it on the beach, because I see my way, you understand? I get dropped out of school and so, you know, some more while the parents not have to try make something for yourself, because you know, we not go sit down and wait for people. We have to try help ourselves, so that cause more while, I see. Yeah.
You make a food out there and you come out there?
Yeah, you make a money because you work, you see me? Yeah, man.
So what kind of work you do when you come out here?
Like more while we unload boat and more while we get two fish and sell we and we get two fish and cargo we on.
The boys dream of being a footballer and a soldier respectively. And the Benevolent Society in the area says it is working to redirect some of the youth to help them achieve their dreams. The president of the society said their community resource center should help.
Our MP is equipping the center with over 20 computers. So we're going to use it for online classes as well.
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.